In this video, we'll be taking a look at 3 games happening on May 12, 2026, and providing you with free team picks and total picks for each one of those games, so 6 picks in total. Welcome back to Cash Out Sports. Let's dive right into it. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe and to click the bell icon to get notified as soon as these videos get released, so that you have more time to plan out your bets as we provide these videos on a daily basis. I can guarantee that you'll have all the important information that you'll need on these 3 games after fully watching this video. One more thing before we start, if you would like to gain access to our best exclusive sports picks to take your journey to the next level, then check out our Patreon in the link down below, where we offer our best single picks, parlay picks, and much more. Now let's get started. Atlanta Dream vs. Dallas Wings. Atlanta came into their season opener at Minnesota as a team nobody wanted to face, and they proved it in the most dramatic fashion imaginable. They trailed by 19 points on the road in a hostile building on opening night. 19. And 5 different players stepped up to score in double figures and dragged this team all the way back from the grave for a 91-90 victory. That kind of comeback tells you something real about the DNA of this roster, something the stat sheet can't capture. Carl Smejsko won 30 games in his first year coaching this franchise, a number that set a franchise record and put Atlanta at 30-14 on the season, good enough for a top 3 seed in the playoffs. He returns with the same core group, all of them, and then the front office went out and pulled Angel Reese away from Chicago in one of the biggest trades this league has seen in years. So now you've got Alicia Gray, a 2025 All-WNBA first-team selection who dropped 24 points in the opener, with 16 of those coming in the second half when it mattered most. You've got Rhyne Howard, the former #1 overall pick, pouring in 15 with 5 assists and 3 steals while knocking down 3 triples. Jordan Canada, a 2-time WNBA champion and multiple-time All-Defensive selection, carved up Minnesota's defense for 12 points and 6 assists in her typical floor general fashion. Naz Hillman, the reigning 6th Woman of the Year, started in place of the injured Brianna Jones and gave you 15 points and 7 boards while hitting a couple of threes, something she barely attempted before Smejsko's system unlocked that part of her game last season. And then Angel Reese, in her very first game wearing a Dream jersey, recorded 11 points, 14 rebounds, 3 blocks, and 2 steals. That gave her 50 career double-doubles in just 65 games, the fastest any player has reached that milestone in WNBA history. The depth on this team is absurd. Now look at Dallas, a team that went 10-34 last season, the worst record in the entire league. Yes, the Wings made legitimate off-season upgrades. They drafted Azzi Fudd #1 overall, signed 3-time champion Alicia Clark, brought in 2025 Co-Defensive Player of the Year Alana Smith, and kept Arike Ogunbowale on a new 2-year deal. Jose Fernandez is a sharp coaching mind, making his WNBA head coaching debut, and his team did look sharp in Indiana, shooting 59% from the field and winning 107-104. But honestly, that Fever game also exposed some real concerns if you watched it closely. Dallas needed a 4-point play from Isaiah James and a late bucket from Odyssey Sims directly over Caitlin Clark just to hold on. Kelsey Mitchell missed a potential game-tying shot at the buzzer, and Paige Bueckers missed 2 free throws in the final minute. That game could have gone sideways in a hurry. Here's the thing, the head-to-head history between these 2 clubs tilts hard in one direction. Atlanta won the 2025 season series 3-1, and 2 of those wins came by comfortable margins. The Dream beat Dallas 83-75 in May, and then 100-78 in August of last year, a game where Rhyne Howard went off for 24 points with 6 threes and a career-high 6 blocks. Atlanta's defensive identity remained elite throughout 2025, finishing with the 2nd-best defensive rating in the entire WNBA. Smejsko's system thrives on spacing, precision, and unselfish ball movement, and year 2 of any coaching tenure is where you see the biggest jump because players stop thinking and start reacting. It's muscle memory at that point. Dallas is still learning a brand new system under a first-year head coach with a roster that features several players who have never played together before. That kind of growing pain shows up everywhere early in a season. Atlanta returned their entire core and added a 2-time All-Star who fills the exact role they needed. The Dream have continuity, chemistry, and a coach who already owns a franchise record season. Getting this team at a small number on the road feels like a gift considering everything they bring to the table. As our first pick for this matchup, the Atlanta Dream to cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. Both of these teams walked out of their openers looking like they had zero interest in slowing the ball down, and the box scores from Saturday tell you everything you need to know about what kind of game this could be. Dallas dropped 107 points in Indiana on 59% shooting from the floor while connecting on over half of their three-point attempts. 3 different Wings players scored 20 or more in that game. Arika Ogunbowale led the way at 22, Paige Bueckers added 20 on an absurd 8 of 10 from the field, and Odyssey Sims chipped in another 20. That Fever game produced 211 combined points between the two teams, and honestly, it looked like a track meet from the opening tip. Atlanta's opener against Minnesota had 181 combined points, and remember, that game featured the Dream fighting through a 19-point deficit. Think about that for a second. A team that trailed by 19 still managed to reach 91 points on the road against a Lynx squad that won more games than anyone in the league last season. When the Dream got rolling in the second half, they scored at a ridiculous clip, ripping off an 18-4 run in the third quarter to erase that deficit almost entirely. 5 Atlanta players scored in double figures, which means the offense has multiple engines and multiple ways to hurt you on any given night. Angel Reese grabbed 14 rebounds in her debut, and 9 of those came on the offensive glass. Every single offensive rebound is a fresh possession, an extra chance to put points on the board. That kind of second chance generation inflates scoring totals in a way that most people overlook when they're handicapping games. Dallas, for all their offensive firepower, gave up 104 points to Indiana. In 2025, the Wings posted the worst defensive rating in the entire WNBA, dead last in the league, and while the additions of Alana Smith and Elisha Clark should help down the road, defensive chemistry takes time to develop under a new coaching staff. You don't fix the worst defense in a league overnight, and honestly, one game against Indiana didn't prove they have. Atlanta averaged 84.4 points per game last season and went 14-2 when they scored over 88. Smesco's system generates clean looks through ball movement, and when those shots are falling, this team can light up the scoreboard against anyone in this league. The Wings showed in Indiana that Jose Fernandez wants pace and 3-guard lineups, with Bueckers, Ogunbowale, and Fudd all capable of creating their own shot and pushing tempo. When two teams with this kind of offensive personnel and these kinds of defensive question marks collide, points pile up in bunches. Dallas has the shooters to keep pace. Atlanta has the depth and rebounding to create extra possessions. Neither defense has proven it can consistently slow the other down. The recipe for a high-scoring game is sitting right there on the table. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. Minnesota Lynx versus Phoenix Mercury. There's something about a team that's already been to the biggest stage that changes how they carry themselves in the early weeks of a season. And tonight in Phoenix, you're going to see that energy on full display. This is the Mercury's home opener at Footprint Center, and if you've watched this franchise at all over the past 12 months, you know they're not just running it back, they're running it forward with a purpose. Phoenix went to the WNBA Finals last season, and yes, they got swept by the Aces in 4 games, but that experience doesn't evaporate. It soaks into a roster, it sharpens edges, and the player who embodies that sharpened edge more than anyone on this team right now is Alyssa Thomas. Thomas came to Phoenix as one of the most complete players in the entire league, someone who finished third in MVP voting in 2025 after averaging 15.4 points, 8.8 rebounds, and 9.2 assists per game, and she opened this 2026 campaign by reminding everyone why. In the Mercury season opener against the defending champion ACs, Thomas went for 20 points, 6 rebounds, 9 assists, and 3 steals in a 99-66 demolition. That's not a typo. The Mercury beat Las Vegas by 33 points on the road to start their year. Now sure, their second game was a 95-79 loss at Golden State, a back-to-back road situation where the legs weren't there. But even in that loss, Thomas still poured in 19 points with 9 rebounds and 11 assists. She's a triple-double waiting to happen on any given night, and tonight she's at home for the first time. Here's what makes tonight's matchup so tricky for Minnesota. The Lynx are missing the single most important player on their roster, and it's not even close. Napheesa Collier, a 5-time All-Star and the runner-up for MVP in both 2024 and 2025, is sidelined after undergoing surgery on her left ankle back on March 24th. She's not expected to return to on-court activities until early June at the earliest. That 22.9 points per game she averaged last season, gone. The defensive anchor who won Defensive Player of the Year in 2024, not available. And the thing people don't talk about enough is how much Minnesota lost beyond Collier. Alana Smith, who shared the Defensive Player of the Year award with A'ja Wilson last season, left in free agency. Jessica Shepard is gone too. The Lynx tried to patch those holes by signing Natasha Howard and Nia Coffey in the offseason, but let's be honest, those are band-aids on a roster that needed surgery, no pun intended. We saw the consequences of all this in Minnesota's first game of the year. The Lynx hosted Atlanta and lost 91-90 in a heartbreaker. Olivia Miles was brilliant with 21 points and 8 assists, and Kayla McBride added 20, but the front court depth issues were glaring. Howard fouled out. Rookie Emma Sekova fouled out. That's 2 front court players going to the bench with 6 fouls in a 1-point game. You just can't sustain that against a Phoenix team with the kind of interior presence Natasha Mack brings, the kind of versatility DeWanna Bonner provides, and the kind of relentless activity that Thomas generates on both ends of the floor. Mack had a double-double with 10 points and 15 rebounds in the opener against Vegas, and she's becoming a legitimate force in the paint that Minnesota has no obvious answer for without Collier. And then there's the revenge factor, the playoff history simmering underneath this matchup. Phoenix eliminated Minnesota from the 2025 playoffs in the semifinals. In fact, it was in that very series where Collier tore 3 ligaments in her left ankle during Game 3, the same injury that led to the surgeries that have her sidelined right now. That series left a mark on both teams, but Phoenix is the one that walked away with the momentum and the confidence. The Mercury also lost Satou Sabally, who signed with the New York Liberty this offseason, but they've replaced that production with depth pieces like Jovanna Nogic, who has been nothing short of electric to start this season. Nogic went for 19 points in the opener on 4 of 5 from 3, and followed that up with 16 points against Golden State on 4 of 5 from deep again. She's shooting the lights out and giving Nate Tibbetts another weapon off the bench that Minnesota simply can't plan for. Phoenix is at home. They have the deeper roster right now, they have the playoff pedigree, and they're facing a Lynx team that is trying to figure out its identity without its best player. Sometimes in sports you just have to recognize when the matchup tilts heavily in one direction, and tonight it tilts toward the desert. As our first pick for this matchup, the Phoenix Mercury to cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. Now let's talk about how many points we're actually going to see in this game, and I think the answer might surprise some people who look at that Mercury opener against Vegas and assume we're getting fireworks tonight. Context matters here. That 99-66 blowout happened because the Aces turned the ball over 17 times and shot 21% from 3. That's not a sustainable scoring environment to project forward. It was an outlier fueled by sloppy play from Las Vegas, not a sign that the Mercury are going to put up triple digits every time they take the floor. When you look at the actual defensive identities of both teams involved tonight, it paints a much different picture. Phoenix ranked first in the entire WNBA last season in points allowed at 74.6 per game. First, that's not an accident, and it's not going away just because the calendar flipped. The Mercury's defensive DNA is baked into how Nate Tibbetts coaches this team, and Alyssa Thomas, DeWanna Bonner, and Kaylia Copper are all experienced enough to execute a defensive game plan at a high level regardless of who's standing across from them. On the other side, Minnesota allowed 76.7 points per game last season, which was also one of the better marks in the league. Cheryl Reeve has always built her teams around defensive discipline and structure, and even without Collier, this Lynx group showed in their opener against Atlanta that they can grind. They held the Dream to 42.5% shooting and forced 21 turnovers in that game. The problem for Minnesota wasn't defense, it was finishing possessions on offense. And honestly, that's another reason this total should stay low. The Lynx are going to struggle to generate consistent offense without their best scorer and primary creator. Olivia Miles is talented, but she's still young, and the supporting cast of McBride, Williams, and a bunch of new faces is still learning how to play together. Early season chemistry issues, combined with a travel situation where the Lynx are now going on the road after losing at home, tend to depress scoring. And here's the historical piece that really seals it for me. The head-to-head trends between these two teams scream low scoring. In the last 8 Mercury home games against the Lynx, the combined total has stayed under 172.5 every single time. Every single time. That's not a random blip, that's a pattern rooted in how these two specific teams match up against each other. Both squads slow the pace when they see each other. Both prioritize defensive execution. Phoenix has scored under 21.5 points in the first quarter in their last 6 home games against Minnesota, which tells you this isn't going to be some track meet right out of the gate. It's going to be a grinder. Both coaches want it to be a grinder. When you combine elite defensive coaching on both sides, a Lynx offense that's missing its engine, and a Mercury team that's playing their first real game at home and will want to control the tempo and protect their court, you get a recipe for a game that keeps the scoreboard operators bored. I don't care how good Nogic has looked shooting the three, and I don't care how many assists Thomas is going to rack up. This game is going to be physical, it's going to be deliberate, and it's going to stay in that range where the under is the right call. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. You've got the defending 2024 WNBA champions rolling into the Moda Center tonight against a franchise that played its very first game 3 days ago. And honestly, I think there's a massive disconnect between what the market thinks this Portland team can do and what they've actually shown us so far. The New York Liberty sit at 2-0 on the young season, and even without Sabrina Ionescu, who's nursing a left foot injury from the preseason finale, and Satu Sabali, who didn't even travel with the team because of a cyst, this roster still has more proven talent than most full-strength WNBA squads. Think about that for a second. Breanna Stewart dropped 31 points and 10 rebounds in the opener against Connecticut, a game the Liberty won by 31 points, by the way. Maureen Johannes, who a lot of casual fans probably don't know well enough yet, torched Washington for 25 points in Game 2, connecting on 6 threes in a 98-93 overtime victory. Rookie Pauline Astier chipped in 18 points and 7 assists in that same game like she'd been doing it for years. This team has layers, and the scary part is they're still missing 3 or 4 rotation players who haven't even suited up yet. Chris DeMarco, the first-year head coach who spent 13 seasons on Steve Kerr's staff with the Golden State Warriors, racking up 4 NBA titles along the way, has installed what Liberty returners have called a completely different offensive system. And it's clicking. New York scored 106 in the opener against Connecticut and 98 against Washington, and that second game needed overtime, meaning they put up those numbers with a shortened bench. Jonquel Jones, the former MVP center, anchors the interior. Betnijah Laney Hamilton brings veteran toughness at the forward spot. Julie Van Loo dished out 11 assists in the season opener and made the whole system hum. Even Rebecca Gardner and Han Shu have given them quality minutes off the bench, which says a lot about how deep this team runs even when it's banged up. The Liberty lost 5 players to injury and overseas commitments before the season even started, and they're still rolling. Now look at Portland. The Fire lost their home opener to Chicago, 83-98, and I want you to sit with that for a second because Chicago finished tied for the worst record in the league last season. Portland is the second youngest team in the WNBA, averaging about 25 years old. Alex Sarama, their inaugural head coach who came from the Cleveland Cavaliers player development staff, is trying to build chemistry with a group that has never played together at this level before this month. Bridget Carlton, the team's first ever expansion draft pick, put up 13 points and showed flashes of what she can be as a floor spacer. Carla Light led them with 18 points. Sarah Ashley Barker shot the ball efficiently, and Megan Gustafson added 10 off the bench. But here's the thing, this team fought hard in the first quarter against Chicago, trailing by only a single point, then got absolutely buried in the second quarter when the Sky outscored them 31-19. Portland rallied in the third with a 30-18 run, which showed real heart, real competitive fire, and then collapsed again in the fourth, getting outscored 30-16. That kind of quarter-to-quarter swing tells you everything about where this team is right now. The expansion nerves are real. That inconsistency is impossible to ignore. The most alarming number from that Chicago game was the rebounding gap. Portland grabbed 34 total rebounds. Chicago pulled down 56. That's a 22 rebound difference, and when you consider that the Liberty hauled in 53 rebounds against Connecticut and 44 against Washington, you realize Portland is about to walk into a buzzsaw on the glass. Camila Cardoso alone grabbed 14 rebounds for Chicago, including 8 offensive boards. Now imagine what Jonquel Jones and Breanna Stewart, 2 of the most dominant interior players in the world, will do to Portland's front court. Emily Engstler, one of Portland's most versatile defenders, someone who specifically wanted to come to Portland to work alongside assistant coach Sylvia Fowles, managed only 4 points and 2 rebounds while committing 3 turnovers and picking up 5 fouls against Chicago. That was her introduction to life as a WNBA starter against a team far less talented than what she'll see tonight. I'll give Portland credit. They drew 19,335 fans for their opener, setting a WNBA expansion team attendance record, and the energy at the Moda Center is going to be electric again. But crowd energy only carries you so far when the opponent has two former MVPs and a deep bench that punishes you in waves. The Liberty's defensive efficiency has been suffocating so far. They held Connecticut to 75 points on 38.6% shooting and just 18.2% from beyond the arc. Even Washington, who pushed them to overtime, only managed that because of a 19 offensive rebound effort that generated tons of second-chance opportunities. And that's the kind of chaotic rebounding performance Portland's personnel simply can't replicate. The Fire shot 40.8% from the field and 31% from deep against Chicago, and I expect the Liberty's length, athleticism, and defensive rotations to make those numbers worse. The talent gap between these two rosters is enormous, and the Liberty's motivation to dominate early under a brand new coaching system only adds fuel. As our first pick for this matchup, the New York Liberty to cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. Portland showed us something in their opener that most people glossed over because they lost by 15. The game finished with 181 combined points, and that's with an expansion team still figuring out its offensive identity on the fly. New York's two games tell a similar story. The Liberty and Connecticut combined for 181 points in Game 1. The Liberty and Washington combined for 191 in Game 2, and while overtime inflated that a bit, regulation alone produced 174 combined points, which is still a pretty big number. The Liberty are averaging 102 points per game through two contests, and their offensive rating against Connecticut was north of 115. This team pushes tempo, moves the ball, and attacks in transition with purpose. They racked up 26 assists against Connecticut and 19 against Washington, which means they aren't chucking shots. They're creating good looks and converting them at a high clip. Maureen Johannes has been unconscious from deep, knocking down 11 threes across 2 games. Stewart is getting to the line at will, shooting 15 for 16 on free throws so far this season. When a team generates this many trips to the foul line and this many open perimeter looks, points pile up fast. It's almost automatic. Now flip it to Portland's defensive end. The Fire allowed 98 points to Chicago, a team that most preseason projections had finishing near the bottom of the standings. Chicago shot 47.8% from the field and 35.3% from three against Portland. The Sky attempted 34 free throws and converted 26 of them. Portland's interior defense got shredded, giving up 48 points in the paint. Imagine what happens when Breanna Stewart and Jonquil Jones start operating in the post and off pick and rolls against this group. Portland does have some scoring punch of their own, and that matters here more than people realize. Carla Lida drew 7 fouls and got to the free throw line 12 times against Chicago, hitting 11 of them. Bridget Carlton knocked down 3 threes. Megan Gustafson connected on 2 from deep off the bench. When Portland runs their offense with pace, something Sarama's system encourages, they can generate enough action to keep scoring even against stiffer competition. Both of these teams want to play fast, and that's really the crux of it. The Liberty had 19 fast break points against Connecticut. Portland had 9 fast break points against Chicago. These quick possessions add up and inflate the scoreboard. Portland committed only 8 turnovers against Chicago, which is a genuinely impressive number for an expansion team in their first ever game. Fewer turnovers mean more possessions mean more shot attempts from two teams that like to push pace, and that means the scoreboard keeps ticking higher and higher. The Liberty also gave up 93 to Washington in regulation and needed overtime to survive, so they aren't exactly a lockdown unit right now, at least not consistently. Portland's guards can create enough offense to contribute to a high-scoring affair even if the game itself is lopsided. When you combine the Liberty's explosive offense with Portland's porous defense and add in the pace both teams want to play at, there's a strong case that this game pushes well past the projected combined scoring number. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. That's all for now, so if you have any other games you would like reviewed, then leave a comment down below with the game you would like analyzed, subscribe to our channel, leave a like on this video, and we'll get to it as soon as we possibly can. We would also love to hear your opinion on the picks presented to you in this video, whether you agree or disagree with them, so leave a comment down below and do let us know.